When did you say, hey, I think I could make money doing this? Today on Business Under Fire, we have kind of an impromptu podcast thing, which I've been looking forward to do. We're with Nate Shelton out of beautiful Lubbock, Texas.
That's right.
Where are you from originally?
Dallas,
and
Texas.
And so I'm excited to have you on because you're young. How old are you now?
27.
27. And I guess we'll just start it off. What's an estimate on a number of the total dollar amount of houses that you've sold basically in the past 2 years?
That's a good question. At least
at
least 10 million for sure.
At least 10 million in houses turned in 2 years.
Right.
And so that's where we're going to go down the track of how all of that started. Because you are a young entrepreneur. It wasn't long ago, 2 years-ish, that you were at our front door checking IDs at Beer House.
That's right.
And for people watching, Beer House is a bar that I own, restaurant down in Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech is there, and it's a popular little spot. And so I would just go and talk to Nate every now and then about what he's doing. And in my position, you kind of have to, people just keep talking. Like most people that are claiming they're going to go into their business, they're really just talking shit.
Right.
So we call those wantrepreneurs. So I sit on the front porch of Beer House a lot, and I listen to all these bouncers tell all these stories. We've had hundreds of them that want to do shit. And I would say 99 maybe 98% of them haven't done shit.
Right.
Well, Nate has done a lot, and you're just getting started. What is it that you tell people that you do?
I start off with just telling them, hey, I'm a realtor, but I don't do a lot of client representation. Most of what I do is real estate investing. So buying low, selling high, just like pretty much anything else.
Well, you started off by saying you're a realtor, and how did you decide? What led you to decide that you wanted to go get your real estate license?
I really think it was mostly on my first couple flips. I had to hire somebody else to manage my asset, and I didn't like that. I wanted to be more hands-on.
And negotiate the entire transaction.
Absolutely.
And then what happened when you got the, what's the last piece of paper on the payouts?
And they would take a cut, on the closing document.
On the closing documents.
Yeah.
And so you just started thinking.
I mean, $2,000 tops for my license when I'm paying some guy, $5,000 a transaction. It just makes sense to spend the money to get your license.
And taking forever to reply to your text.
Yep.
Screwing up your negotiations.
And they just want the deal sold. There's not a big difference between if the house sells for $160 or $150 for them. But that's a $10,000 swing for me.
Right.
So I felt like nothing against my friends at Brick and Loft, but it's just the quicker the better for them. So I obviously teamed up down there, and I'm able to just negotiate exactly what I want on my terms.
With other realtors.
Yes.
With sellers.
Yep. With mostly my buyers, I feel like I'm able to also help them out and provide value, because most of the time I'll get a buyer who's unrepresented, and they call that being maybe a fiduciary issue, but I'm able to credit them maybe what another realtor was going to make in profit. So it helps them out in their transaction as well.
And that's on the realtor side of the aspect. And you said you tell people what you do is basically you're a realtor, but that's not really what you do.
Not at all, really. I mean, it's kind of my way to tell people, like, are you really interested in knowing what I'm doing, or are you just going to take it at face value? So it's a good way to qualify who I'm talking to. A lot of people, hey, what do you do? How did you get started? Well, I'll just, start with the realtor stuff and see what kind of questions they ask. Yeah. It's super important to know what their intentions are. So.
And so basically you use that to weed through the BS, but if you want somebody to know what you do, what are you going to tell them?
I'm the owner of Lone Star Capital Assets. I syndicate real estate. So I'm going to raise money, and I'm going to buy houses at a discount, and I'm going to fix them. I'll resell them. So
that's a long way from a realtor.
That's a long way.
realtor might just help people do that, but you do it yourself.
Right.
How in the world did you even start thinking that you were going to start messing with basically flipping houses right now? Where'd you start getting these ideas?
Playing college football, watching other people do it. This really all started on the east side of Lubbock. First property I purchased was $11,000. I mean, I had it in my savings, paid cash for it, 11 grand, probably a 1,200 square foot home on the east side of town. That was a complete, I mean, it was dilapidated. I mean, it was horrible. And I look back at that, and that was like a really vulnerable time.
How long ago was that?
I want to say that was 2018. So my first year living in Lubbock before I moved away for a couple years. All I did to that property was go inside and just take all the trash out. I mean, it was to the roof in trash. And there was no remodel. There was no make it nicer. I mean, strictly just a trash out. And then I listed it, not myself, with the realtor, and it sold for $23,000. I was like, hey, I just made a good chunk of change, and I really didn't do all that much.
Did the realtor even want to list that?
No, I think we had to agree, like, it wasn't like a 3% deal. Like, they got like $1,000 commission or something like that just for their time. So
you bought the house. What did you empty it out with that fancy trailer you're still carting around?
No, it was me and my cousin in a U-Haul is what's funny. So, that fancy trailer now still does me good. It still does. I mean, I think me and Cole left, I want to say 3:00 yesterday, but I woke up that morning and took my trailer out to the dump and, 2 tons of trash, $20.
It's like it's a single axle, maybe 10-foot trailer.
Yeah, I think it's 10
I
by 5.
think you've put that thing through its pace.
Yeah. Well, I do the math on it, and renting the dumpster, $250 plus the trash. They're charging you $46 a ton. You get 2 tons in there, so you're spending $400 or $500 a trailer or a dumpster, and I'm having to do how many of those per job site?
Yeah.
So I'm saving, some pennies on it. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth my time. But I've looked at least when I go to buy another truck, I mean, my truck has made all of its money back. I mean, I've probably saved $30,000, $40,000 over 2 years pulling that.
I used to keep track of how much money each piece of equipment made, and it's staggering when you think about it. But
it's like a $2,000 trailer was like an infinite return.
Well, even a $600 pole saw one year made me like 45 grand.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy to think about that. Well, did you have a background in construction, or how did you get started on this?
No, I did not have a background in construction. And that was probably the biggest piece to the puzzle. Because it's like you can find a deal, but getting it to where you need to be to resell it is really what you're doing. That's the value add. And a lot of people get stuck on the, I flip houses, but I'm the realtor, I'm the investor, I'm the general contractor, and then I'm the realtor again, doing all the negotiating on the backside. So general contracting was extremely difficult for me to break through at the beginning. I mean, I got ripped off more than often.
Yeah.
Like my first couple times on my deals, just not knowing the lingo of the contractors, not knowing how to qualify contractors, not knowing just how to put the pieces together, what order you need to go through to sub out a house.
Yeah.
Dude, surviving that was like, once I figured this part out, I was like, dude, I can get this thing rolling now.
How did you figure all that stuff out? Just hands-on?
Trial and error. I mean, I want to say a couple houses in, I was still doing some of that work. Like I was still doing the painting. I was hanging sheetrock. I was installing appliances. Nowadays, I'm just the trash guy, I guess, as far as like actually doing the labor.
Yeah.
I just, I roll out the trash. But, I really just think that was a trial and error kind of deal. trial by fire is really what I would call it, because tons of guys I fired, tons of guys that just ripped me off, never showed back up. And then just finding the right pieces for whatever task I needed. So
It takes a lot of time to dig through the good subcontractors and the bad subcontractors. I picked it up because we were always mowing, and then I started doing little projects like that, a house here, a bathroom, or this and that. And you find, I mean, even today you meet new contractors and you're like, damn, why did I even deal with them?
right.
So it takes,
Or you meet a new contractor and you can sniff right through what they got going on. Like you're a scam. Like
instantly.
Yeah.
It's funny how quick those guys stick out. And then you would wonder, why are you going to go and just try to get over on Nate or me when you know we're going to hand you more work if you do a quality job at a quality price, and they just want to hit you one time and run.
Right. That makes no sense to me. I had a contractor threaten me with liens on a property, and I could just go through his list of the stuff that he was supposed to do, and he didn't do it. And, I had to make a conscious decision. I was like, I'm going to pay this guy just so I never have to deal with him again.
Yeah.
The value was never dealing with the guy again.
Yeah.
But at that time I was rolling, maybe a house a month. And I was just like, what's this guy's deal? I mean, does he not see all the business I can bring him? And, I look back and he's already out of Lubbock. Nobody's hiring the guy. You can get on any general contracting page and they're saying, don't hire this guy.
Sometimes it's worth paying them to go away.
Sometimes.
So right. Your first flip or improvement on a house was 11 grand. You turned it into 23 grand. Probably walked away really at the end of the day with 6 or 7 grand.
Right.
And how did you find that house? Because what I've noticed with what you're doing is you've got a niche for finding these deals on houses, and I think we'll get into that in a while too, because you're open to partnering with people that do want to flip house, right?
That's right.
So how are you finding in the early days? How were you finding these deals?
Everybody's always going to say this, like, hey, I've got wholesalers who bring me deals. I think I was the opposite, where I was like, I was finding deals that maybe I should have wholesaled, but instead I purchased. And those deals come from maybe door-to-door knocking, mail-out campaigns, or word of mouth, or dealing with something that nobody wants to deal with. Like east side of Lubbock, there's infinite flips. I mean, there's so much distressed property on the east side of Lubbock, where I started my career, where I've grown out of nowadays. I'll still do some deals on the east side for sure. But I think that if I were to have tried to start my career in like a San Antonio or a Dallas, that I would have never probably got started, just because even out here in the hood, there's still $200,000 houses when you can go to, a secondary market like Lubbock and really find some deals where people aren't looking as much. So
I got to Lubbock, I guess it's 8 years ago-ish now, and that place is, for anybody that's going to come and do a good job and do what they say, I believe that the opportunities in Lubbock are endless, and it's 5 hours from anywhere, right? So it keeps a lot of the competition out. A lot of people are finding out about Lubbock, but if you were there and you were an accountant or a concrete guy or a wood builder and you do what you say and show up, I think Lubbock is a hot market for anything.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the deals there fly off the board even faster than a Dallas or a San Antonio deal right now. So
where would you steer somebody that, going back to where are you finding these deals right now, and where did you find them from the beginning? So where would you steer a guy that's, got $10,000 or $20,000 that wants to flip a house, even with some sweat equity? Where would you steer this person into?
I would steer them into me, honestly. If I hear somebody who's got a smaller budget, right? Like I said, I syndicate. So
What's syndicate mean?
It's just collecting funds together from multiple sources. So I've got different investors. My two biggest investors, they work like a line of credit, are $1 million each. And then I've got a bunch of other investors who are under 500,000. And then I've got my own cash, which I try not to touch. And then I've got my own lines of credits, which I also try not to touch. But I always end up, hey, here's an extra deal that I need to take down now.
Yeah.
So, I always end up throwing my cash in.
Or the garage costs more to fix, or
Yeah,
the door.
yeah.
How
if you've got the 10 to 20,000, there's lots of ways to get in the door of a deal. First is finding the deal, right? Which I can help anybody find that. If they're looking where I'm getting it from, it's from other wholesalers. It's from inside of my office. We've got 300 houses that we own. We've got pre-foreclosure list. I've got a whole system of mail campaigns where, I think what separates me more than anybody is my ability to go door to door. Nobody else does it. Like, everybody's like, I'll do this, this, and this, but I won't knock on the door. Like, what's better in your mind if somebody sent you a text or showed up at your property like, hey, I'm a real buyer. I'm not just some guy on the other side of a text. So
when you find a house that's distressed, and define distressed for me or for everybody that's listening, what does that mean? What are you looking for?
Well, if I can go to a property without even getting inside, I can know distress. We've got overgrown trees, grass. We've got soffit fascia that's peeling apart, an old 3-tab roof.
That's been on the market, or one that's going in?
I do all off market. So, I probably bought 2 houses out of, who knows, what am I at, 70 houses now that are all off market. So
that you just went and knocked on the door?
Knocked on the door, or it was just a qualified lead that came in, or I say being a realtor helps. Like, a lot of people don't want to be an investor and a realtor. There is some conflict of interest there, but you can wear one hat at a time. So anytime I approach somebody, I'm wearing my investor hat. Once I go to my realtor hat, I can't go back. So that becomes a conflict of interest. But I would say that just getting plugged into the right communities of a bunch of investors, just having those conversations going, it's like a never-ending hustle to keep conversations alive. Is what I feel like. So,
well, I call that panning for gold.
Right.
So you're always panning for houses. What when you do find a house that you think is going to be a good candidate, what rules or what do you put on these houses to justify saying, look, this looks like a good?
Yeah, I've got a pretty easy metric. You're going to take the ARV, so the after renovation value, and then you're going to do times 0.7. And then you're that's your 30% equity that you're aiming for. So
you need to purchase that house at least 30% cheaper.
And then I'm going to subtract the repair cost. So you'll end up, it just depending on the deal, buying it around that half of ARV, I would say.
Yeah.
It just depends, because sometimes I'll get that deal where it's like, hey, if we don't close this weekend, we're going to get foreclosed on. So we're just trying to find a buyer who can pay cash and close. And I'm the buyer. So I'll just pay off whatever existing note they have, and maybe the house didn't need a lot of work. And I've been getting some of those lately where it's just a good buy, not a ton of work to get it fixed.
Are you seeing the foreclosure market go up right now?
No, I'm seeing it go backwards right now. If anything, it's kind of hauling to a stop.
That's a good thing for people living in houses, though, and a good indicator of what's going on in the market, because, with our stuff, we're heavily dependent on weather, right? Our weekends at the restaurants. If the weather's good, we're doing good. If it's bad, it's bad. So right now, our stuff is down about 10%, but every single weekend has been terrible.
Right.
And so I've been looking for market indicators on what's going on. So that's good to hear from you that you're seeing them kind of come into a hole.
Yeah, definitely a smaller list. And you can look at it statewide. They've got some indicators on that. Typically, there's 7,500 foreclosures a month in the state of Texas, and I think this month's list was only 5,500.
That's great on who knows how many actual homeowners. That's a small number for whatever the population is, so that's good. So after you find these houses and you knock on the door, you've done your metrics on the .7 of the remodel cost. Um, what goes into the next? How long does it take to close these things? When do we get
Yeah.
in and start working on stuff? Walk us through the process for a kid that's at Texas
Yeah.
Tech or any college in the U.S. Because what's crazy about this podcast is getting watched all over the world in
Yeah.
the U.S. So walk a guy that you would talk to at the front door at Beer House through the process of what goes on after you buy this house.
Yeah. So, I mean, typically to close, what I need is title commitment. Now, I am very versed in title, so I can do some creative stuff like a quiet claim deed. I've done that in the past, and it didn't bite me. We had good title research on it. So that can, one, expedite things, because then you just really need an attorney to draft a deed. And
So you don't even have to take you get the deed checked out to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, the title,
which
yeah.
we have a good story on why you're even here about that.
yeah, that's why.
How did that deed look?
Well, that title is not clear, but possession has been ruled in my favor.
Well, we're gonna go over that because that's a nice 5 to 7 minute, gotcha that most people won't know of. But so title looks good. You need a lawyer to draw up the contract between who? You and the homeowner?
That's correct.
No realtor.
Yes, no realtor involved. Anytime that I'm buying a house, like a pro for working with me is I'm not going to charge realtor fees if I'm the buyer. So they're going to get I'll pay the title. I'm not going to charge a buyer agent fee. I'm not going to charge a listing agent fee. In certain circumstances, if they don't have a survey, I'm not going to charge them for a survey. The cash price that I put on the contract is what they walk away with.
And so, what is a lawyer charging these days to do the paperwork on a house transaction?
That's a good question. I would say like $1,100 are probably going to be the same price as a title company, but the speed is where you're trying to beat like a circumstance like a foreclosure.
And that's one of the things that I learned years ago that is a good point that people might not have picked up on. But if you find a house that's for sale and you have a lawyer that you can use, you can get this transaction done without paying real estate agents on either side, unless one has it listed,
Right.
and pay that lawyer the $1,100 or $1,200 to get it done.
And that's where the gold is with the off market is like once it's on market, you know that their price is going to be stiffer, and that's just they're not going to have any room to really negotiate. So that's one of the better things.
And you take so you close on the house, and then it's time to get
It's time to change the
busy.
locks.
Have you done the research on what's needed in this house prior to closing?
Depends. Like sometimes you can just look at it and say, hey, if it was a whole gut job inside, I'm good. Like I've got it at the right price. I bought this thing. And I did a service to the seller. Like they were going to lose it. They were going to have a foreclosure and an eviction on their record for life. Mm-hmm. And instead of that, they might have walked away with a little bit of cash, and they're in a better situation than just losing the house in total.
Are they typically letting you in, or they're keeping you at the front door and you have to guess what's in there?
A little bit of both. I feel like that's 50-50. There's a lot of stuff that I'm buying, though, where it's like, hey, this was an REO deal.
What's an REO deal?
That's where it's bank owned.
Okay.
So the bank already owns it. They've already foreclosed it. They took the property back. They've got someone, like this is the story why I'm down here right now.
Yeah, we'll get into that. I'm excited about it because you were here not long ago.
Yeah, I was here 1 week ago. Yeah,
so,
to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that'll happen where it's like, hey, this is a HUD deal or this is a REO. So HUD is like your lower income kind of housing, and the person in there is not cool with anybody coming to check it out.
Yeah.
So you got to make an educated decision. I don't like to call it a guess.
You got to show up to the house with the hobo stick and a bag.
Yeah.
And
Like,
say, hey,
can I?
y'all are moving.
I've done some funny stuff in the past, like not to where I'm like torturing anybody or anything, but like, my first couple of evictions, it's all trial by fire. Like I really didn't. I've got some good legal advice that I can't give, but I can tell you that I've got some accurate equations just because I've gone through it, not because.
Yeah, you're learning how to get them out politely.
Yes. Yeah. And cash for keys is your best choice. You can go through the eviction route and it might be cheaper, but the amount that you're paying in interest is going to catch up. So,
well, go back to you've closed on the house. Now it's time to build. You've done somewhat of an assessment on what needs to be done, which that you could dive deeper into that because that means a lot of things.
Right.
That kind of boils down to your best guess.
Right.
And this is what is going to take some cojones from an investor is to be able to risk this, whether it's going to go good or not. And out of 70 deals that you've done, how many have you been wrong on?
I've been wrong on a few for sure. I don't want to say that I've lost money, but I've lost time. So there's never been a transaction where I sold it and, hey, I lost 10, 15 grand on the deal. But I'm like, hey, that took me 6 months.
Yeah.
And I made $5,500.
I've always done that. So when it came to the restaurant industry, the ability to make really beautiful food, I learned from my grandma, and I was always, why, grandma? Why do you do it this way instead of this? When I got into the restaurant industry, I was thinking, okay, I'm not educated. I didn't go to school for it. So I started from the bottom. I worked at my grandma's and then some other places, but I really started from Wendy's.
Order number 8. Your burger's ready. Number 8.
I worked my way up to becoming a big-time district corporate chef. When I tell you I was prepared for this restaurant, I was literally prepared from this restaurant. I understood and did everything it took to get from fast food to fine dining and everything else. So I had a portfolio of every type of scenario you could possibly throw at a restaurant, and I was ready for it.
Not worth it. And so that's a good point, though, because if you take the average of what you've done on the 70 houses, your mistakes really haven't been, they've somewhat hit you in the pocket, but it's more time.
Right.
But you learn every single time. Like we don't lose, we learn.
Right.
And we continue down that path of what the construction looks like. What a guy's going to have to go through to get this house to shining again.
Right. I mean, the first thing is I'm changing the locks. You got to secure the property, especially after an eviction or if it's something that has sat empty for a long time. I mean, I've gone into houses and there's homeless people doing drugs in them. Like I've seen it all. And securing the property is always the first step. And then we're going to go in and check out electrical, plumbing, HVAC, roofing. And we're going to assess like where are my big ticket items, right? I've had a couple houses that have had some foundation issues due to being pure beam. I've never had a slab that was just gone bad. So I really haven't, I don't have too much say in that kind of thing.
Lubbock area is good. You got to watch out when you're down in San Antonio. On the southern part of San Antonio goes from hill country, which is rocky soil, down to farm soil. So when you're in San Antonio, that is, the foundation companies down here are busy as can be because they crack like crazy. I don't think bad enough where you'd have to redo the whole slab, but it's going to take a lot. They dig under there, they jack them up and put piers, and it's a pain in the butt. So assess everything that's in there and then clean up.
Right, yeah, and we're going to demo and clean from there. So you want to look at a house almost top to bottom. you definitely aren't going to lay your floors before you start painting. You know what I mean? Like that's something that I would make a mistake of like early on in my projects.
How much of this stuff can a guy do himself with 1 or 2 people?
I mean, if you've got 1 or 2 people that are dedicated, maybe in on the project with you, you might be able to do the whole thing depending on, you know, your sweat equity in the deal, what you're willing to do. My goal is to not do any of the labor. I actually get enjoyment out of taking the trailers to the dump.
Yeah.
It's just something that
You're gonna
I
get
feel like I'm hands-on in some area here.
when you actually listen and spend some money on a dump trailer, you're really gonna get enjoyment out of pushing a button and watching it dump, as they're giving the excavator guy Gatorades and
yeah, for the scrape off.
yeah.
Dude, they
Nate-
love me though. They see me and they're like, "There he is,
Yeah.
there he is. Gatorade's coming."
Nate's got a Tommy trick. He always takes the guys at the dump drinks because they'll use the excavator and scrape
right.
off all of his stuff. So he's kind of got a dump trailer. It just
Yeah.
cost you $6 a pull
bucks.
for the Gatorades.
Yeah, so.
That'd be funny if that was a line item on your accounting
yeah,
sheet.
that would be hilarious.
It's amazing what food and drink will do for people, and I have the same habit myself around here. I run donuts everywhere. I run food everywhere, and I mean it's just killing them with kindness. Everybody eats and everybody drinks, and I guarantee when they see that Chevy run around the corner at the dump, they come right to your truck.
And, I mean they're hot out there. I
Yeah.
mean, even if it's the wintertime, I mean they're working. So
Yeah. The house is now getting cleaned up. You've done all the construction, which you could write an entire book on. Contractors, payments. Are you giving people half down these days, or what are you doing?
That's where I was losing. You know, if they're close to 90% done, then I should be paid about halfway through.
Okay.
And it's always that last 10% that is just the hardest to get
How
done.
is your payment structure working on these guys? What are you seeing work?
Well, I've been with this crew that I've assembled for half of my houses now. So, you know, they're getting paid every Friday, and I'm very confident that they're going to finish what they started because they've seen me constantly bring them jobs. So, you know, I'm probably writing a $3,000-$4,000 check every Friday to my crew. But with that being said, we are doing jobs where their, you know, labor is costing me $30,000. So
And you're doing-
sometimes it's a lump sum payment because they got the job done early. You know,
Are these guys doing your drywall? They're doing your cabinets. They're doing your paint. Are they?
Yeah.
They're doing everything.
no, I mean, so I have it subbed out, right? But I would say that my drywall texture paint guy is the same. It's like his cousins that are doing my floors, right? And they're also doing my trim and baseboards. The framer is the same guy laying floors. So if I have to do new windows, there's a couple of these guys that have like multi-trades, right? And that helps out a lot. But my cabinet guy is separate. My HVAC guy is separate. My roof guy is separate. Even my demo crew is not the same as my paint and sheetrock guy. So I've been running with this crew, like I said, for at least half of my houses. And I'm kind of at the point where, like, yeah, of course I drive by the job site, you know, daily to make sure they're still hitting where I need them to go. But they're very self-sufficient at this point because they've kind of got an idea of exactly what I'm looking for. So what I like the most about them is, you know, typically you get like one round of blue tape, right?
Oh, they know your expectations now.
They know my expectation, and I'll blue tape it, come back. Hey, I didn't see this. Hey, you know, look at that. I'll blue tape it again. And then I might come back for a third round of blue tape. And now it's like exactly where I want it to be. So we just probably did our best remodel. I want to say that, and I bought the house for $76,000. And, you know, that doesn't include like the little bit of points that I paid to borrow the cash. And then my interest rate, you know, I've held
When
it.
you say points, for people that don't know, what's that mean?
That means like, hey, if I borrow $100,000, they're going to charge me 2 points. So I've got to give them a $2,000 check, like up front. So there's a little bit of cost to pull the cash. And then the interest rate, especially when you're, and this is, I mean, anybody needs to know this. If you are getting some type of construction loan, if you are getting any type of hard cash, your rates are not going to be at market. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I see so many people who just don't go into business because the rate's bad. I'm like, dude, you're getting the house half off.
Yeah.
You know, this one here in San Antonio, it's a $450,000 house. And the guy who was foreclosed on had a 3.1% interest rate. So I think he was paying like $3,100 or $3,200, right? And everybody's like, well, he's got a great rate. That's a low payment for this house, right? I've got a 12% interest rate on the property, but I bought it for $305,000, and my payment's equivalent to what he was paying.
Right.
But I'm mega equitable.
Yeah.
And I'm going to refinance it whenever I can, and that payment's going to drop super low. So
When you finish these, when you get done with all your blue tape, like a happy little guy running around taping everything, when you get done with it, the house is ready to sell.
right.
What's that process look like?
Well, I'm the realtor again, so I've got like professional photographers who come in. Walter has done, I mean, I think
Do you have a glamour shot picture on your realtor sign?
I do have one.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Hey, the picture in the suit was good the
That's the
other
one
day,
I'm
though.
talking about. Yeah, that's the
all
one.
right.
He took that.
I'll
He took
allow that one.
Yeah.
But I just always think it's funny that all the realtors have glamour shots.
Yeah, and then you see them and they're like
Yeah.
50 years older than what they actually are.
But that was a good picture. Good job. We have a live studio audience today. He's pretty quiet, but he's handsome. And
You want me to come say hi?
I mean, it happens. But we never have. We only have live studio guests every now and then, and it's
Say
only
what's up,
one.
Cole.
So there he is, right there, live and in person. So these houses are ready to go back on the market. They're all cleaned up, looking beautiful. You've paid me my $350 to go pressure wash the driveway, and you list them.
Right.
They go on the
listening.
MLS. Where are they going?
They're going on the MLS, which is giving you access to realtor.com, Zillow, any of the online associations. Like you're gonna see it there. This last deal that I did, probably my most proud remodel where I took that glamour shot. I listed it for $239, and I knew that I was coming into the market pretty strong. I was like, hey, I'm listing it probably a little bit less than what it's worth. Could have 11 grand more, like 250 would have made sense. But I listed at 239, and within the day we had like 8 scheduled showings, and I mean, it felt like it was 2020. Like, I mean, this thing was just on fire. I think within 3 days we had 16 showings,
Holy crud.
4 offers, all above our asking price.
What city was that in?
That's in Lubbock.
And that was a next question is when you do list these diamonds in the rough now, what are you aiming for on market price? Are you aiming for like 5% below,
I would say
10%?
3.
Because you're trying
3.
to turn these things.
Right. That's right. And that matters because my interest rate is high, especially if I'm just going to resell. So speed matters. It's more effective for me to sell or list $10,000 less and hold the property 3 months less.
So you're trying to sell these things as quick as you can, and 3% is where you're.
Right. That's about what I'm saving as a realtor.
So you'll do your market analysis in the
Mm-hmm.
area, take the last 3 houses sold, and you're aiming at 3% less.
That's right.
And
Also being just a nicer property. So, being a gut out remodel that's 3% under market. Of course, that's why I'm getting all the attention.
And I've seen a few of the houses that you've done, and they're always nice. They always look great inside.
I appreciate that.
And they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, they're done right. So you do walk into them, and you do notice that you guys took time on them and did it right. And on the speed of the time that you guys are trying to sell these, give people the bad news on what has happened on a couple of these houses. And before you answer that, I believe most of your houses have all sold pretty quick.
Right. I've had a few exemptions to that. I would say that I had an expectation that it would sell, 3 months, but it took 6. And that's happened to me maybe 3 or 4 times, probably due to the area. Because you're selling on the east side, there's not as much buyers. There's a lot of renters. So it's easy to refinance those and find renters. But back to your question, I mean, the speed matters. And the interest rate is what's really going to catch up to you.
What's the average time that the houses that you have been turning are sitting on the market for you?
Recently, I want to say less than 60 days.
So that's a great.
Yeah.
That's
when you're listing properly, you can get greedy and try to over list your house, and then it's just going to sit. I mean, how many times could I have turned that same dollar if I just took a little bit less?
Yeah.
You end up making more because you do more deals. So
It's a neat, an interesting process to get walked through the buying and flipping of houses. And I've told you before, and I think it'll be interesting to watch, that everybody that's been successful as you have, which, sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit, but you've been very successful in buying and selling houses. You've bought and sold more houses than 99% of people will do in their entire life.
Right.
And so you think about it that way, you're like, oh shit, I guess I did do okay. Even though you're just going in day to day, doing your thing. And I've had a lot of properties and stuff. I don't know how many, but maybe 20, 25. And I've turned a bunch. I don't go in and flip stuff. We've done it, but you're moving. So it'll be interesting to see what you move into, because the flipping stuff on the house thing, it seems to get people overwhelmed when they just keep going and going, and they got to be in so many places. So I'm curious to see where you go, and it might be an apartment complex, or it might be this or that. Do you have people that are lined up right now to buy your houses that just want to rent them, or is it always going to the MLS?
I've got people ready to buy investments. So if I see that there's a house that's maybe in Amarillo, for example, and I don't want to send my crew that far, I'll do, people call it assignment or wholesale, but it's like, hey, I actually had to buy this property. It wasn't available for a wholesale. Like, I had to close it quick. So I'll buy it, and I have a buyer lined up there who's probably bought 5 deals from me this year. And those were quick. It was like, hey, I'm going to mark it up 10 to 20 grand, and he's going to get a phenomenal deal where he's going to make 100 grand. There was one house we just sold on Bonham Street. I sold it to him for $213, and that house will sell for $330,000 and needed like 15 grand in work. Man. And I look at it and I'm like, I always have that little bit of doubt where I'm like, I should have bought that one and went all the way through. Yeah. But it's because I took these 5 deals where I made 20 grand super quick that I have this extra floating room to go get a big local deal or come down to San Antonio and buy a $500,000 house instead of playing around in these $250,000 areas.
Yeah.
So,
but Lubbock has made this affordable for you.
Yes,
because you do come to Dallas or you go to San Antonio or a bigger market, and the price of the same house is 30-40% more.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's that's the thing. If people are listening, they want to go play in Lubbock or any other place that's 5 hours from somewhere, it makes for a good market.
It does. It makes it opportunity that might not be available anywhere else.
Yeah. So well, we've talked about this, and I think it's a funny story. A lot of times when you get these houses, there's tenants in there that have to be evicted or moved out, and take us through the reason, starting about 3 weeks or a month ago, why you're in San Antonio, so we can hear a good home flipping story.
Gotcha. This is the story that people don't think exists. So REO deal, bank owned, house built 2020. So a new house, $450,000 on the tax roll. I'm looking at the house, and I see the original deed of trust, so I can check out like the original loan, which is a really good tip for anybody who's going into real estate.
Say it again then.
If you're negotiating a deal and they're saying they still have a payment, it's public record to go look at their original loan. You can go look at the deed of trust. You can see who their mortgage is with. You can see the original amount that they borrowed and the rate, and you can calculate what they actually owe.
Where's that at?
The real property of wherever you want to go. So if you just search real property, you just search real property in whatever city, and then it's like property records.
Oh,
you got to be pretty skilled. This is where you get into that like title work, where it's like I understand title, real well versed in title. and you can see like if they have any secondary loans against the house and which one supersedes what. But this house that we're talking about, why I'm down here for a lovely eviction. This guy is a professional squatter, is the right word, and they exist. He purchased this house 2020 or 2021. It's a new build. He's got a great interest rate, and this is a lot of greed is coming out of this guy when I say
You
this.
found the house because it was on the foreclosure list, right?
I found it through an REO, so it's like they were making it publicly available to investors that are accredited, and that's a really hard list to get on. You have to quite literally show that you have cash to close. There's no other way to buy them.
So this house is on that list.
Yes, this house is on that list. I'm looking at the deal, and I'm, a new house, $450,000, but they want to sell it for $305,000. We drive by the property, we check it out from the outside.
Pretty clean.
Super clean. I mean, immaculate. I mean, the neighborhood is just awesome. And this is Helotes for anybody.
Helotes.
Helotes. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, they got. It's funny. I own property in cities that I can't even pronounce. Guys. Yeah, it's Helotes, but there's green here, which is spelled odd. Bernie spelled odd.
Bernie. Yeah, that's right.
Bernie.
Yeah.
But anyway, and for people in other parts of the U.S., we got some interesting names down in Texas because they're German ancestors, Mexican, so it's all over. But Helotes is a great town. So the house looks great.
Everything looks good.
It doesn't look like a foreclosure at all.
At all. I mean, like this house, the grass is well kept. Like they've got the concrete's clean. I mean, it looks phenomenal. And I'm like, well, this is the deal that I want. Like I want this deal.
You probably got all excited.
I was pumped. And I close on it, and I'm like, all right, I'm used to doing evictions, done a ton of evictions.
How do you do an eviction?
3-day notice, and then you go file for the...
Will the constables go knock on the door?
No, just got to do certified mail. And then once I can prove that they received the certified mail with a 3-day notice, then I can file an eviction at the JP. So that's an easy process.
Who gets them out of the house, though?
When you get a writ of possession after winning your eviction case, a constable will come.
And did you do that?
Well, that's what we've been fighting for. So this particular individual,
we should just name his name, but we'll leave it alone.
We've got a nickname. You want me to use it?
What's the nickname?
Shunsturd. He's a turd, dude. Yeah, it's bad.
He's I love this story because it's been going on for weeks, and he is a turd.
Yeah. He has been in litigation, quote unquote, with the mortgage company since 2023. So he's had this property tied up in different Liz pendants against Cornerstone Home Lending, and he hasn't been paying to live in the house already for 17, 18 months. And what he did not bet on was the lender taking the loss. The lender's like, man, this guy is a headache to deal with. He's got us tied up in litigation. As soon as they had the right to foreclose, they foreclosed him. Mm-hmm. And they had an opportunity to just say, hey, we'll just dump this one and get it off of our books. We don't care what we can get for it. Evicting this guy is going to cost us more time and more effort than we really have. I mean, they're a nationwide lender. They're not hurting over the loss at all. And there's some pretty unique stories where a third-party buyer does not enter. So I'm the third-party buyer with the bank. No third-party buyer ever buys the property from the lender. And the squatter or the person getting evicted literally lives in the house for free for up to 10 years before they lose the case. Yeah. So they know, hey, I'm losing this case at the end of the day, but I can tie it in litigation, and my $3,100 payment for the last 17 months equates to $50,000. And he was hoping, hey, I can get 5 to 10 years fighting against this lender. Yeah. Because the lender's not local. They don't have time, effort. They're not just going to pick it out of their day to start a court case and get it figured out as fast as they can.
Yeah.
So
So you got this house now under your control.
correct.
You sent the eviction notice.
That's right.
And then?
And then he filed a state case. So he was in a federal case, and he lost that federal case. They foreclosed. And then he started a new case, all the same criteria, which you can't do that. The federal has ruling over the state. But he did it anyways. And he included me in the lawsuit. So
now you've been sued.
yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You know, we got served papers yesterday on our birthday for a dog bite on the beer house patio.
Wow.
So to anybody that wants to be in business, Nate has just learned you're going to get sued.
Yes.
And we do, and then we have insurance, and it sucks, but really it's just another day at work, unfortunately.
Right. And this is a big learning experience for me because I've literally won every eviction case hands down, no issues. I've lost one eviction case. You know what I did?
What?
I overslept.
Oops.
I was lucky. The guy was already moving out. So, you know, I show up to the house and he's got U-Hauls out there. And I was like, wow. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it happens. Any other eviction I've ever had, super easy. The judges in Texas seem to be on your side.
So 97% of them will go smooth.
Yeah.
He's filing with the state, and then what happens?
I'm proceeding with my eviction, and he asked for a preliminary injunction, which at this time he's denied. I win the JP court case. He knows what to do. He already told me, I'm just going to appeal it. So he appeals the JP court case, and that's another month until I can get it to a county court case. So
you've met him face to face.
I met him face to face in the JP. Prayed for him,
and he's
I literally prayed for him in the middle of the courthouse. And you could tell the guy's wearing a lot of different stuff on his chest, where he's like, he knows he's illegitimate. He's not a legitimate standing here. So,
yeah.
I win the JP case. I'm unable to get. I win the eviction. They say that I have the right to possession, but I'm unable to get a writ because he same day appeals it. And so you know he bought himself an extra month, and I'm having to do a county case. And I mean, this guy is like Mr. Pro Se litigant specialist. Like, in the meantime, he's filing all this different stuff to try to reopen the federal.
I wonder who's filing all this crap.
He's doing it. He's doing.
Punk.
I mean, he's literally filing everything. Like, if you, I hired an attorney for this, not necessarily for the eviction part, but he's giving me, you know, he's helping me with the title part. So I've got a clear title to get this property refied. Which this is like, hey, if you're a real estate investor, be careful with REOs, just because this stuff can happen to where, like, now I can't, you know, refinance or sell the property. Like, I don't have clear title, so I have to
But
go
you own it,
so
you're
it.
paying interest at this time.
That's right. And I
Homie
haven't even
needs
got
to hit the road.
Dude, I haven't even got possession yet. I have the right to possession, but I haven't got it yet. And you know, I'm paying $100 a day.
Yeah.
You know, $3,000 a month, just about. So
you got it to county.
yes.
You won that.
So I won the JP 1 week ago to today. I came into the county and I won that case.
Mind you, he drove 800 miles round trip last week to do it.
With a hurt back.
With a messed up back, and then 800 miles the past 2 days to do it again.
Yes.
So what's it look like for, I forget his name.
Shunstered.
Yeah, what's it look like for him?
So right now, we won the county case. He filed some emergency hearing. Like, it's not even a real thing. And we go into court today, like a couple hours ago.
And he's there.
And he's there.
Is he in a suit?
Dude is like super well-spoken, super professionally dressed. Like, he looks like an attorney. Just a professional scam artist.
He is.
Like that. He's a professional scam artist. There's no other way to put it. And he's there, and he's, in this emergency hearing to stay the writ, because I won writ of possession in county. So, 10 days from then, he has the right to appeal it, set a bond, and do all these things to try to stop my writ. But instead, what he tries to do is this emergency hearing because he doesn't want to pay the bond. So he's trying to do some other stuff. And the judge is like, I recognize y'all from last week. Why are y'all back? And I didn't say anything. I was like, I'm going to let this guy talk. And by the end of it, the judge obviously rules in my favor again, but the judge is like telling him what to do to kind of like get away with this. Like, you need to pay the supersedious bond that I'm about to set right here, right now. And I'm like, wait a minute, judge. He is not here on a motion for a supersedious bond. Like, you have to have a motion signed and a court date set to have that bond. And the judge looks at his piece of paper and he goes, you know what, you're right. I'm going to rule in your favor. I'm not setting a bond. So the whole thing is he had 10 days from May 1st to pay this bond, right? And we're 1 week later, so we're on day 7 right now. And the bond still hasn't been set. He's got to set another motion. He's not going to have time to set the motion. So I will get possession of the property. But there was another way that he theoretically could have kicked this ball down the line for 6 months. I mean,
well, now he knows it.
He's so screwed as far as like any plans that he had to stay in the house. Where he lost, the first thing where he probably knew he lost is a third-party buyer entered I have the right to forcible detainer of the property. So
we should go put your for sale sign in the front of it.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Put some concrete down there and chain it to it.
Yeah, I think we're going to do, it'll be the first time. And, I'm not trying to do this in poor spirit, but we're going to film the writ of possession.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to stick the sign in the yard.
Good. Might as well. Oh, that's good. That's a good story. And it's nice to hear your story. And, it's people always think stuff is just handed to you. Like, oh, Nate just started this shit. Give us a quick rundown of how you were raised.
Yeah. I mean, Saxe, Texas, going to high school, living with my grandparents, parents divorced, the whole 9 yards. You've heard the story 100 times. I was an athlete in high school, and I was blessed to find Lubbock through Texas Tech football. And from there in college, I transferred 5 or 6 times chasing football.
Yeah.
Football was an awesome experience, hard on my body, but it allowed me, one, to live for free, even though some of those circumstances weren't great. And then secondly, it helped me build cash into my pocket, whether I'm getting a stipend check or a refund, or we're getting paid for the days that we're showing up to practice, but it's not a school day. There was just opportunity for me to even have that 11 grand because I played football in college. And I feel like failing so many times in football set me up for success later on in life, because my first couple of deals were just kind of rough. The first one went well, and then tried to do some more, and kind of
that's usually where people stop.
Right. I mean, there was so many times where I was like, maybe this isn't going to work. And luckily I'd been battle tested in college to where I was like, failing is just another thing. It's just like, fail, keep going.
We don't lose, we learn.
Right.
We don't lose, we learn. And Nate's always been working. He was working the front door at Beer House while doing this stuff. And then not only that, he's taking care of his brother and his sister, because he did come from a broken home. He hasn't had jack shit handed to him. And you're in the early stages of all this. So it'll be, again, really interesting when you're my age, because you'll probably look back on what you're doing now and be like, oh, I wasn't doing shit. and that's just the way things evolve.
I already look at it like, 2 years ago, I was thinking, hey, I've got a business going, and I wasn't doing nothing. I was doing, a house here and there. But
that's a whole nother thing we could have talked about that I took in my notes, is how'd you even learn how to run a business? And that's a whole nother chapter. But what would you tell old, 15, 17-year-old Nate if you were staring at him in the face right now?
I would just say keep going. There were so many lessons I learned by trial and error, and I think that instead of just being like a crash out, somebody who is against all regular proceedings, I think it helped me because as a kid I got in a ton of trouble. I mean, I was Mr. ISS.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. But being the guy who got in trouble also made you question the rules, where you weren't like, hey, I'm just going to walk the same path everybody else is walking. And I think that definitely helped me become a business owner, to where I was like, hey, I just can't go about life the same way everybody does. There's something more to this than just going to college and getting a job and working for somebody else. There's more to life to that. I can be a business owner and I can supersede anybody else's expectation. I'm not going to allow them to dictate what I'm worth.
Right.
So instead of getting in trouble and using that fire that I didn't know how to control at a young age, I would tell myself, hey, use it in a smart way. You can question all the rules around you, but learn to do it in a way that benefits you instead of just being a crash out all the time.
Yeah,
So,
it's really wild to see how people grow up and proceed when they don't really have parents. And I didn't know my dad really till I was 17. Mom didn't tell me anything. And so you just kind of do it. You have to question everything because nobody's there to guide you.
right.
And so it's interesting. And that's just the way it goes with a lot of entrepreneurs. They're all kind of self-starters, do their own thing. Don't listen to people. Don't take shit from people.
Right.
But if you did and you followed all those rules, you probably wouldn't have this house in San Antonio from this guy. You would have given up and said, well, the rules are rules. He's in.
Right.
Court says he's in. And and that's the thing that I remind people. If you end up making $100,000 on this house, well, making $100,000 is not easy. It takes work.
Right.
And this one might take a little bit more work, but at the end of the day, if it took you 4 months or 5 months, $100,000 is a shit ton of money.
Right.
So, if people want to partner with you, where can they find you at?
The best way to find me, Instagram, Nate Shelton 03. I can put my phone number in a link or anything below. I've got a website that we're finishing up here, and I've got a lot of different opportunities at all capital levels. So don't just think that 2 points is all the returns I have.
And you're always finding shit. So if there's somebody that is trying to turn real estate, Nate's one of the best guys I know at finding deals all over Texas. He's not just in Lubbock.
That's right.
He's everywhere, and he actually throws more stuff at you than you can handle. So you got to sift through this stuff, but he's good at going through it. Like a little honey badger for real estate deals.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm looking.
Yeah.
And I'm not just Lubbock. So we're planning on hitting the Houston market here real soon. San Antonio was our goal. I think I'm going to do Dallas last just because it's my hometown. I'm just gonna do that one last. So.
Well, it was good to have you here. This is the kind of stuff, I feel like we say it a lot on Business Under Fires. This is the kind of shit it takes. Nate had no plan to do the podcast today. I had no plan to do the podcast today. I was actually all set up for a guy tomorrow. And Nate, he just texted me, yo, and which I figured I think he's in San Antonio because I heard. And so I was like, dude, just come bang it out. You got a long way home anyway. And I think it's good for people to hear your story on flipping stuff and how to get in. And the other thing is Nate's approachable. So if you're in Lubbock and you want to buy him lunch, that's what it's going to cost you. You'll have to buy him lunch.
At Miguel's, please.
Yeah, at Miguel's or Beer House, preferably. Then he'll go through all this stuff with you on how to do it and even present deals on your plate. And if you're a larger investor guy and you want to do some bigger deals, he's a good guy. He's got a proven track record of stuff to put some money with, and he'll put money in on the same house with you and do it together. So anyway, but we do appreciate you coming in here, sitting in this nice, warm podcast studio that has a half-ass AC in it, but we're doing it, and it's been fun having you. So we really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right.
Yep.